My name is Heide. I'm a lecturer in the philosophy department, and I'm going to tell you a little bit today about philosophy 356, 18th century philosophy. When you think about the world around you, the world of material objects, you probably think that material objects like tables and chairs and stones and trees and blades of grass don't depend on you, that they exist independently of you, and that they have the properties that they have independently of the way that you think about them, or the way that you see them, or the way that you feel them, and so on. And if that is your view, and that's a very intuitive view, then you're in good company, because for the majority of philosophers in history, they've agreed with you. But there are exceptions to this. This course, 18th century philosophy, is about the exception. It's about what happened in philosophy right at the very end of the 17th century and during the 18th century, when some of the greatest philosophical minds that the world has ever known, for very different reasons, came to the conclusion that the material world is a construction of the mind. This position is known as idealism. Idealism says that what's fundamentally real are just minds and their ideas, and that the material world, whatever it is somehow dependent on minds and ideas. So in this course, we look at three different philosophers, reading three classic works in philosophy, all of whom arrived at idealism as their theory about how the world fundamentally is, but for dramatically different reasons. So we start with the Irish philosopher, the Bishop George Berkeley, who thought that material objects were really just ideas, literally imagistic ideas or representations in your mind, and that material objects didn't exist, not as we normally would understand them, as fully independent of the mind. He thought that that was a contradiction. So we start with Berkeley, looking at Berkeley's frustrating and fascinating arguments for this position, and then we look at two German philosophers. The German philosopher and mathematician Leibniz, universally regarded as one of the most brilliant minds of his era, who held that the world was fundamentally composed of little minds, and that the material world, or the world as we perceive it, as in space and time, was just our finite way of perceiving a world composed of minds. We then turned to Kant, who thought that the only way that we could explain the knowledge of mathematics, and that in geometry and arithmetic, for example, that we have, was on the hypothesis that space and time were imposed by us on a non-spatiotemporal world. So the point of this class is to look at what seems to me at the beginning to be an extremely counterintuitive view, that the idealism is right, that the world is fundamentally mind-dependent. And what's so interesting to me about this course is that by the end, it no longer seems so counterintuitive.